when it comes to actual non-tenders, this is what the Mets ended up deciding. For some of these players, it is the end of the road, and specifically for that guy on the right, which I'll get into in a second, the Mets did non-tender 3 specific players and will not tender a contract to them for 2025, making them free agents and available to sign with any team. They also avoided arbitration with Sean Reed-Foley. He will be back. Let's hope that his health does not get compromised in that possibility. We have seen a lot of health issues from him. The players that were non-tendered, you have left-handed pitcher Alex Young, 31 years old. He's an ARB2. He was claimed on waivers by the Mets from Cincinnati in the middle of July. Posted a 3.29 earned run average across 13.2 innings pitched with the Mets. Did not pitch a single inning in the postseason for them, so it made sense as to why he would have been dropped. Grant Hartwig is another one. Undrafted free agent in 2021, signed with the Mets. Stormed through the minor league system that year. 27 years old. He's still in pre-arb. He did undergo surgery to prepare a meniscus tear in his left knee while he was in AAA Syracuse this year. Pitched a little bit this year. Pitched 42 career innings with the Mets. Earned run average over 5. Was not great in the major leagues, so he has been let go as well. Now, the most headlined one of all the non-tenders has been outfielder Alex Ramirez, who was added to the Mets 40-man roster to avoid the Rule 5 draft last year, and he had yet another rough season. A 590 OPS across 542 plate appearances in Double-A Binghamton. He was a former international signing by the Mets in 2019. The Mets had some of the high hopes for him that maybe he can put it together, but it just doesn't seem like it was meant to be, as the Mets let go of him and move on from him after over 5 years in the Mets organization. As for the pieces that are expected to be tendered a contract, there are some others that are on this roster, seeming to be roster filler at this current moment, but other pieces that we do expect to be tendered a contract, or maybe they do get DFA'd later. But right now, the expectation, Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio, Alvarez, Acuna, Beatty, Nunez, Budo, Christian Scott, who will be out for 2025, Oscar Brazaban, Reed Garrett, Jose Siri, who they just acquired, Tylor McGill, Tyrone Taylor, Luis Torrens, David Peterson, and Paul Blackburn, who was expected to be a 50-50 on who gets non-tendered. Now, when it comes to a piece like Alex Ramirez, he was viewed very highly towards the beginning there. And ever since then, he just really has not grabbed his footing whatsoever. And I think that we all knew that it was pretty much the end of the road for him. He had a lot of upside. I was definitely a fan of the kid, and I was excited to see what he was able to do, but he just was not able to put it together, and he struggled mightily, made it up to Double-A. Maybe there's a team that picks him up and, he can have success somewhere else.
Again, when he originally was put on a 40-man, I was saying on this show, why? He's 21 who didn't reach Double-A, and you're putting, and you were being like, well, the talent. That was kind of, for me, a death kiss, because if he didn't progress fast, because he was on the 40-man, especially how valuable a 40-man roster spot is, if he wasn't progressing, he was going to be cut. And that's why I've said in all the videos we did so far since the offseason and all the streams, why I've been he's going to be a trade, I would have thought, just at least a throw-in, just to open up the 40-man roster spot and end up, again, you just DFA him. But again, he didn't play, so it's not even he has all the raw tools, but again, he didn't produce. And once he was that 40-man, especially, and like I said, how valuable the spots are, it was kind of just a ticking time bomb. Okay, say, if he keeps going, okay, he was going to get DFA'd, and, it sucks because, again, it's a 22-year-old kid. I mean, he has he's got talent. We saw it in 2021 in A-ball, and when he got up to Brooklyn, you're like, okay, there's something there. And then just ever since 2021, he has just regressed. Is somebody going to take a flyer on him? Probably. Ever since he was put on that 40-man roster, it was like, okay, Stearns, I guess, had faith in him because, again, he added him because when he really didn't need to, because no one would have took a 21-year-old who barely played in Double-A at the time when he was added to the 40-man. Nobody was taking him in the Rule 5 draft because, again, he would have just given him back to the Mets anyway because of it. He wouldn't have been on the roster the whole year. So, again, maybe it was a miscalculation from Stearns because, again, we've seen Stearns is very toolsy, and it just didn't work out. And he's done his whole tenure. He made the mistake. He said, all right, I made a mistake. All right, let's move on. And it sucks, but again, that's why with prospects, they're suspects, and they're proven otherwise. And you can have all the raw ability and all the raw power grades and all that. If you can't do it on the field and can't produce, it's all just fluff. There's no substance. And this is just another one of the, 5-tool guys who just flames out, and hopefully he gets another chance being able to put him in Double-A, and maybe in a couple of years we look at a 25-year-old Alex Ramirez in the big leagues. Who knows? But again, it's just open the spot up, and it's just an experiment that didn't go well.
In regards to some of these other prospects, I know that somebody in the chat mentioned Kevin Parada. I don't see Kevin Parada being added to the 40-man roster at any point. When it comes to Alex Ramirez, I mean, is the heart pretty much set on this one? I think that it's been established that he's struggled for a while.
I mean, it really is a shame when you think about it, especially the position that he plays. I mean, what are we talking about just a little while ago at Jose Siri? Like, oh, imagine some offense from center field. And that's what we were hoping Alex Ramirez could provide to some extent based off of the nice start he got off to. But like we said, once he got that promotion, he just never was able to improve. If anything, got worse. So, we've been waiting a few years now and still have not seen any really positive signs. And I think one thing to consider is that it's not even so much that he's not a Stearns guy, but the Mets have had so many different GMs that he's like multiple, like just guys beforehand. You know what I mean? Like he's just a regime way before time. So, Stearns gave him a shot by putting him onto the 40-man roster, saying, okay, we'll give him one more year to see if he could provide anything of value to show us improvement, then maybe get to AAA or just see improvement in general. And they didn't see it. So there's just no point anymore. Hopefully they do find someone that is much better of a fit to take up that 40-man roster spot. Like they didn't just get rid of him and just bring in someone who's worse to fill the 40-man spot. I do feel like we've talked about, since you don't have a rotation, you have just a couple guys, you basically need a bullpen, you need a first base. Like we talked about, you need like we've talked about, so many guys are gone that you need to add so many more players to your 40-man roster. So it's like, you're going to keep Alex Ramirez over a lot of other guys are actually going to be pieces for you this season. I feel like even if the Mets kept Ramirez on the 40-man roster, because he was in Double-A struggling, you still weren't going to see him this season. So it's just a matter of, you really got to think about like, okay, well, who are we actually going to be using this season on our 40-man? So I definitely understand it. As far as Hartwig, another guy who was before Stearns' time, we saw mixed results. Yeah, I mean, some stuff we like, some things we didn't like. And when you're coming off of an injury with the knee, you just never know how that's going to go either. So I'm totally fine with them just saying, you know what, we'll see if we can find someone who's more healthy and see if they can provide something, a new set of eyes, an actual Stearns targeted pitcher. And then I feel for Alex Young, with this Mets bullpen last year, we talked about it, but the opening day roster was very different from the roster that they had at the end of the season when it came particularly to the bullpen, especially with the whole Jake Diekman scenario where he was gone and you just had Danny Young and you're like, okay, we'll try to get another lefty, Alex Young. And for the most part, Alex Young is a guy who was used as that extra roster spot for the September call-ups. So I feel like they just wanted another lefty arm. I mean, like you mentioned, they got him off of waivers pretty late in the season. So he was just there to eat a few innings. They weren't putting him into any like super high leverage roles or any big spots because he didn't blow anyone away. Like even though his ERA was all right, you just feel like the overall, looking further into the numbers, he just didn't have anything that just kind of popped off the charts. So I feel like, when it comes to him, you just feel like you could find something better to put on your 40-man roster and just have something that's more of value that you feel you could use much more.
As for Alex Ramirez, I think that there was always some hope that he could possibly put it together, but there just really was no substance of it. We just did not see any consistency in that way. We saw him definitely dominate low ball hitting. In Brooklyn, he was not great, and then in Binghamton, he was just as bad. And he just seemed to show the exact same issues that we've continued to see throughout his entire minor league career. And there was not great swing decisions. We did not see the power progress at all in a 6'3" frame. It didn't seem like he grew into his body the way that he was supposed to when it came to a piece like Ronnie Mauricio growing into his body like he did. Alex Ramirez did not. There also were some things from scouts talking about the lazy work ethic and, unmotivated stuff. So it was surprising to see kind of Stearns put, some chips on him and say, you know what, I'm going to add him to the 40-man roster to give him a chance. Knowing the upside that he did have, it didn't end up working out. They made the decision to move him off of it and non-tender him and move on. So, I mean, he gave him a chance. There are a lot of pieces that they're going to bring in through the draft, of course, with Ben Gross coming in here, pairing up with David Stearns of what they did in Houston. They did a really good job in regarding to player development over there. But when it comes to the farm system now, there are some other pieces from other regimes that could be not just on the move, but could be just outright cut. I was a little surprised that nobody really put their hat in for Alex Ramirez. I'm not saying trading an actual body for him, but like, $50,000 cash. There you go. I definitely think that they shopped him, but it didn't seem like they got any bites. And for good reason, to be honest, after 2 subpar years. One this year that was probably worse than last year, to be honest, of overall results that you got from him. He just did not pan out. It sucks because I feel like he would have been a great player if he did pan out, because I think that there is some talent there. We just did not see it. And that's that.